President Trump is focused on getting this housing market booming again. The last 4 years has been terrible.
Fixing California's housing crisis. Today, a bipartisan group of state lawmakers unveiled a series of bills aimed to try to do that.
While news outlets keep claiming California real estate is stabilizing, insiders see the opposite. Behind the headlines, sellers are slashing prices, homes are sitting longer, and investors are quietly cashing out. The reality is simple. The housing model that kept California overpriced is cracking. Remote work is reversing, affordability has imploded, and inventory is building faster than buyers can keep up. These aren't small shifts. They're structural changes that guarantee pain ahead. In 2025, the fallout won't just be in luxury markets, but in suburbs and affordable cities, once thought safe. Today, we're exposing the numbers the mainstream glosses over and revealing the 10 California cities where this crisis is already unfolding. Stay tuned, because some of these shocks will catch you off guard. Number 10. Sacramento. California's capital city is hemorrhaging buyer confidence at an alarming rate, creating the perfect conditions for a spectacular price collapse. Recent Redfin analysis reveals Sacramento's staggering 44.9% difference between sellers and buyers, nearly one seller for every 2 buyers shopping the market. This isn't your typical seasonal slowdown. Sacramento's government-heavy economy once provided stability, but state budget pressures are forcing workforce reductions across multiple agencies. Public sector employees who anchored the housing market are watching their colleagues get laid off while their own salaries fail to keep pace with $700,000 median home prices. The mathematics are brutal. Sacramento's median household income hovers around $75,000 annually. A $700,000 home with 20% down requires a monthly payment exceeding $4,000 at current interest rates. That's 64% of gross income, double the recommended 30% threshold. Sacramento real estate agents whisper about inventory building in traditionally hot neighborhoods. Properties that would have sold within days now linger for weeks. Zillow's 3% price decline projection for Sacramento represents just the opening act. When government employment contracts and private sector jobs remain scarce, housing demand craters. Smart sellers are already cutting prices preemptively. 34.8% of April's sales involved price reductions, up 10.2% year over year. Early movers will escape with smaller losses, while stubborn sellers holding out for 2022 prices will face steeper discounts later. What makes Sacramento particularly vulnerable? The city marketed itself as the affordable alternative to Bay Area pricing. Now it's pricing itself out of its own economic foundation. When the supposed budget option becomes unaffordable, market corrections become inevitable. Sacramento's housing bubble was built on borrowed Bay Area wealth, and that credit line is closing fast. Number 9. Riverside. Welcome to ground zero for California's suburban housing disaster, where pandemic dreams are morphing into financial nightmares. Riverside County leads all major California metros with a devastating 61.3% gap between sellers and buyers, meaning for every 3 homes listed, barely one serious buyer exists. This Inland Empire poster child rode the remote work wave to unprecedented heights, attracting Bay Area and Los Angeles refugees seeking space and affordability. Those days are over. Corporate America's return to office mandates are shattering the economic foundation that supported Riverside's housing boom. Consider the new reality. A 2-hour commute each direction from Riverside to downtown Los Angeles costs approximately $400 monthly in gas at current prices. Add vehicle wear, insurance increases, and lost time, and the total exceeds $600 monthly. That's $7,200 annually just to reach your job. Money that could service housing debt instead. Meanwhile, Riverside's affordable homes now average $600,000, triple the national median and double Riverside's historical norm. Local wages haven't followed this appreciation. The median household income of $68,000 cannot support these inflated prices without external subsidy from higher-paying coastal jobs. New construction permits continue flooding the market with fresh inventory, approved during the pandemic's peak optimism. Builders are completing projects designed for a market that no longer exists, creating oversupply precisely when demand is evaporating. Real estate professionals are noticing subtle shifts that predict major corrections. Homes priced aggressively are sitting longer. Multiple offer situations have disappeared. Buyers are negotiating repairs and credits that sellers previously rejected. When market psychology shifts from scarcity to abundance, price momentum reverses quickly. Riverside represents the perfect storm: overextended buyers, excessive supply, declining demand, and economic fundamentals that never justified peak prices. The correction won't be gentle, it will be mathematical. Number 8. Anaheim. Disney's hometown is writing its own tragic ending as housing market fundamentals collide with fairy tale pricing. Anaheim's 38.7% seller-buyer imbalance signals deep structural problems in Orange County's supposedly stable housing market. The Magic Kingdom's economic model is failing its residents. Tourism and hospitality jobs that historically supported Anaheim's middle class now pay wages that can't approach mortgage payments on million-dollar median homes. Restaurant servers, hotel clerks, theme park employees, and retail workers, Anaheim's economic backbone, are being systematically priced out of their own city. Disney's corporate restructuring eliminated thousands of higher-paying positions that provided housing market stability. These weren't minimum wage theme park jobs, but middle management roles paying $50,000 to $80,000 annually with benefits. Their disappearance creates a void in the buyer pool that cannot be filled by service sector wages. Anaheim's vacation rental experiment is backfiring spectacularly. Property owners who converted traditional housing to Airbnb during the pandemic are discovering that tourism revenue can't justify purchase prices. As short-term rental profits decline, these properties are returning to traditional housing inventory, creating additional supply pressure. Orange County's broader economic challenges compound Anaheim's specific problems. Defense contractors are reducing Southern California operations, relocating to states with lower operating costs. Technology companies are following similar patterns, choosing Austin, Phoenix, and Nashville over expensive Orange County locations. The statistics reveal the disconnect. Anaheim home prices increased 150% during the pandemic, while median incomes rose only 20%. This gap creates unsustainable market conditions that inevitably correct downward. Early indicators suggest the correction has begun. Price cuts are becoming routine rather than exceptional. Days on market are extending. Bidding wars have disappeared. When even Disney magic can't maintain housing demand, fundamental economic forces take control. Number 7. Oakland. The East Bay's alternative to San Francisco is proving that proximity to expensive markets provides no protection from economic reality. Oakland's housing market exhibits classic bubble characteristics with a 36.2% seller-buyer imbalance that signals fundamental demand destruction. Oakland's median home price collapsed from $1 million in 2022 to $705,000 by January 2025, a stunning $300,000 correction that mainstream media largely ignored. This 25% decline already qualifies as crash territory, yet prices remain disconnected from local economic fundamentals. Crime statistics reveal Oakland's deteriorating foundation. Violent crime increased 38% year over year, while property crime surged 42%. When residents don't feel safe walking to their expensive homes, those homes stop commanding premium prices. Quality of life deterioration eventually impacts property values regardless of broader market trends. Corporate relocations are accelerating Oakland's decline. Major employers are abandoning the Bay Area entirely, choosing lower-cost markets with better business climates. Tesla relocated to Texas. Oracle moved to Austin. Each departure eliminates high-paying jobs that supported Oakland's housing market. Oakland's rental market is simultaneously softening, destroying the investment thesis that justified inflated purchase prices. Investors who bought Oakland properties for rental income are discovering that rental rates cannot support mortgage payments on overpriced properties. When the rental math fails, investor demand disappears. The city's progressive policies are backfiring economically. Excessive business regulations, high taxes, and anti-development attitudes are driving employers away while constraining housing supply growth. This creates the worst possible combination: declining job base with persistent housing shortages. Oakland's proximity to San Francisco once guaranteed spillover demand, but San Francisco's own market struggles eliminate that support system. When the primary market weakens, secondary markets collapse first. Oakland is experiencing exactly this dynamic as Bay Area economic dominance fades. If you want alerts when we break down the worst cities next, subscribe now. This story gets darker. Number 6. Fresno. California's agricultural capital is harvesting its own housing market disaster as Central Valley economics clash with imported coastal pricing. Fresno exemplifies how pandemic-era speculation disconnected housing costs from sustainable local income levels. Agricultural automation is eliminating Fresno's traditional job base, while water restrictions threaten the farming operations that remain. California's drought policies are forcing agricultural consolidation, reducing employment opportunities in farming communities that historically provided middle-class stability. Fresno's median household income of $55,000 cannot mathematically support median home prices approaching $500,000. The payment on a $400,000 mortgage exceeds $2,500 monthly, 55% of gross median income before taxes, insurance, and utilities. Corporate farming consolidation is destroying Fresno's economic diversity. Small family farms that provided local employment and economic stability are being absorbed by agricultural conglomerates that operate with minimal local workforces. This reduces the buyer pool for housing while creating oversupply in agricultural worker housing. Environmental regulations compound Fresno's economic challenges. Air quality restrictions limit industrial development, while water allocation policies constrain agricultural expansion. Without economic diversification, Fresno lacks the job growth necessary to support elevated housing prices. Pandemic buyers who relocated to Fresno seeking affordable California living are discovering they imported California problems without California salaries. Remote work opportunities that justified the move are disappearing as companies implement return-to-office policies. The correction signals are everywhere: increased inventory, longer marketing times, frequent price reductions, and declining sale-to-list ratios. Fresno's housing market inflated on speculation rather than economic fundamentals, creating artificial pricing that cannot sustain without continuous external demand. When agricultural communities experience housing bubbles, the corrections are typically severe because local wages provide clear valuation ceilings. Fresno is approaching that ceiling rapidly, and the impact will be proportional to the preceding inflation. Number 5. Bakersfield. Oil country is experiencing its own energy crisis as environmental policies collide with housing market reality. Bakersfield's economy depends heavily on fossil fuel extraction and refining. Industries facing existential threats from California's aggressive environmental regulations. Energy sector employment uncertainty creates housing market instability that compounds affordability challenges. Oil workers earning solid wages hesitate to commit to 30-year mortgages when their industry faces potential elimination within decades. This reduces buyer demand precisely when inventory is increasing. Bakersfield's geographic isolation becomes a liability as remote work opportunities decline. The city lacks natural amenities of coastal markets or urban infrastructure of major metropolitan areas. Without compelling lifestyle advantages, high housing costs become impossible to justify. Petroleum industry consolidation is eliminating middle management positions that historically supported Bakersfield's housing market. Major oil companies are streamlining operations, reducing local employment while centralizing functions in corporate headquarters located elsewhere. Environmental justice activism is targeting Bakersfield's refineries and extraction operations, creating regulatory uncertainty that discourages business investments. When industries face existential challenges, supporting housing markets become unsustainable. The city's air quality problems limit population growth and economic diversification. Bakersfield consistently ranks among America's most polluted cities, making it unattractive to industries and residents seeking healthier environments. Housing inventory is building as energy sector workers relocate to markets with better long-term employment prospects. Texas and North Dakota offer similar work with lower living costs, making Bakersfield's expensive housing economically irrational. Bakersfield marketed itself as affordable energy, but high housing costs eliminated that advantage while environmental policies threaten the energy foundation. The city faces a double squeeze: rising costs with declining economic prospects. Real estate professionals report increasing difficulty moving properties priced at pandemic peaks. Buyers are scarce, financing is expensive, and economic uncertainty is pervasive. When energy markets contract, housing markets follow. Number 4. Stockton. The Central Valley city that declared bankruptcy in 2012 is experiencing deja vu as housing market speculation creates another financial crisis. Stockton's residential real estate exhibits every warning sign of unsustainable appreciation built on unstable economic foundations. Geographic arbitrage that fueled Stockton's pandemic boom is collapsing as transportation costs soar and remote work policies end. Bay Area workers who accepted 2-hour commutes for housing affordability are discovering the total cost of ownership exceeds Bay Area alternatives. Stockton's limited economic base cannot support current housing valuations without external subsidy from higher-paying markets. The city lacks major employers or growing industries that justify elevated housing costs. When spillover demand from expensive markets disappears, only local fundamentals remain, and those fundamentals are weak. Foreclosure rates are climbing in neighborhoods that experience the steepest pandemic appreciation. Stockton residents have recent memory of financial distress from the city's bankruptcy, making them sensitive to housing market warning signs. This psychological factor accelerates selling pressure when markets turn negative. The city's previous bankruptcy experience left lasting economic scars that limit growth potential. Municipal services remain constrained, infrastructure needs are extensive, and business confidence is fragile. These factors make sustained housing appreciation unlikely without external economic drivers. Stockton's crime statistics discourage new resident attraction while motivating existing residents to relocate. Property crime increased 28% year over year, making expensive housing investments questionable for safety-conscious buyers. Investment property purchases that drove pandemic appreciation are reversing as rental market conditions deteriorate. Investors who bought Stockton properties for cash flow are discovering that rental rates cannot justify purchase prices, leading to strategic exits from the market. Municipal financial constraints limit the city's ability to attract major employers or fund infrastructure improvements that could support housing values. When local government cannot invest in economic development, private housing investment becomes speculative rather than fundamental. Number 3. San Jose. Silicon Valley's technological heart is experiencing its own system crash as housing market algorithms encounter reality. Despite its innovation economy foundation, San Jose exhibits severe warning signs of housing market stress that technology cannot solve. Massive tech sector layoffs eliminated hundreds of thousands of high-paying positions since 2022. Meta, Google, Amazon, Apple, and Twitter conducted significant workforce reductions that disproportionately affected San Jose's housing market. These weren't entry-level positions. Many eliminated roles paid $150,000 to $300,000 annually. San Jose's median home price exceeding $1.5 million makes homeownership unaffordable even for surviving tech workers earning substantial salaries. When six-figure incomes cannot access housing markets, fundamental demand problems exist that cannot be solved through speculation. Technology companies are embracing permanent remote work policies that eliminate geographical constraints on talent acquisition. Workers previously required to live near Silicon Valley can now choose lower-cost markets while maintaining career opportunities. This destroys the location premium that justified San Jose's extreme housing costs. Venture capital funding reductions are constraining startup formation and growth, reducing demand for technical talent. When fewer companies compete for workers, salary pressures moderate while housing costs remain elevated, creating affordability gaps that worsen over time. Commercial real estate collapse is occurring simultaneously with residential market stress. Downtown San Jose office vacancy rates exceed 25% as companies implement hybrid work policies or relocate entirely. When commercial districts decline, surrounding residential values suffer. International competition for technical talent is intensifying as other countries offer visa advantages and cost of living benefits. Canadian cities, European tech hubs, and emerging Asian markets provide career opportunities without Silicon Valley's housing costs. Zillow projects San Jose home prices will decline 3.8% this year, $38,000 in lost equity on median-priced homes. For a market built on continuous appreciation expectations, any decline signals psychological shifts that accelerate corrections. Number 2. Los Angeles. The entertainment capital is producing its own disaster movie as multiple economic catastrophes converge to destroy housing market stability. Los Angeles exhibits a devastating 44.8% seller-buyer imbalance that signals fundamental demand destruction across the nation's second-largest metropolitan market. Recent wildfire catastrophes eliminated entire neighborhoods while simultaneously making insurance unaffordable for surviving properties. Major insurance providers withdrew from California markets entirely, creating coverage gaps that make homeownership financially impossible for mortgage-dependent buyers. Without insurance, banks cannot lend, and markets cannot function. Entertainment industry contraction is eliminating the high-paying creative jobs that historically supported Los Angeles housing markets. Hollywood strikes disrupted production schedules, streaming services consolidated operations, and studios relocated projects to lower-cost states offering superior tax incentives. Los Angeles County's median home price exceeding $900,000 creates mathematical impossibility when median household income struggles to reach $70,000. The 13-to-1 price-to-income ratio exceeds sustainable levels by any historical measure. Homelessness reached crisis proportions with over 69,000 individuals living unsheltered, creating quality-of-life deterioration that impacts residential property values. Affluent neighborhoods previously insulated from urban problems are experiencing encampments, crime increases, and infrastructure strain. Commercial real estate collapse is occurring simultaneously with residential market stress. Downtown Los Angeles office buildings trade at 50% discounts to replacement costs, while retail vacancy rates exceed historical norms. When commercial values crater, residential markets follow. Tax policy changes eliminated deductions that historically subsidized expensive housing markets. Federal tax reform capped state and local tax deductions at $10,000, making high-tax, high-cost markets economically punitive for affluent buyers. Climate change impacts extend beyond fire risks to include drought restrictions, power shutoffs, and extreme weather events that increase home ownership costs while decreasing quality of life. When basic utilities become unreliable, housing market fundamentals deteriorate rapidly. Number 1. San Francisco. Save the most shocking revelation for last. San Francisco, the city that epitomized housing market invincibility, is experiencing the most dramatic real estate collapse in California history, making it the ultimate warning for the entire state. The numbers are staggering. San Francisco's median listing price crashed $400,000 from its $1.6 million peak in 2022 to $1.2 million by January 2025. This 25% correction occurred while most observers focused on smaller market adjustments elsewhere. Technology sector devastation goes beyond simple layoffs to fundamental industry restructuring. Companies aren't just reducing workforces, they're questioning whether expensive San Francisco locations provide value compared to alternatives in Austin, Miami, or international markets. Remote work policies that seem temporary are becoming permanent, eliminating geographical constraints that justified premium pricing. Commercial real estate apocalypse compounds residential problems as downtown vacancy rates exceed 30%. When office districts become ghost towns, surrounding residential neighborhoods lose the urban vitality that justified extreme housing costs. The economic ecosystem that supported San Francisco's pricing is disintegrating systematically. New listings plummeted 17% year over year, while existing inventory exploded 40%. Textbook demand destruction that indicates fundamental market failure. Fewer properties enter the market because sellers recognize current conditions are unfavorable. Yet, properties already listed cannot find buyers at any reasonable price. Federal Reserve policies created artificial demand during pandemic years through unprecedented monetary stimulus. As those policies reverse, artificial demand disappears, leaving markets to discover true price levels based on economic fundamentals rather than speculative financing. Crime statistics reveal safety deterioration that impacts quality of life and property values. Retail districts that attracted residents are closing as businesses relocate or shutter permanently. When urban amenities disappear, housing premiums become unjustifiable. Real estate analyst Nick Gurley warns of potentially sizable price drops in the second half of 2025 in Northern California. When industry experts use terminology like sizable, they're preparing markets for corrections measured in tens of percentage points rather than modest adjustments. The psychological shift from scarcity to abundance is accelerating as buyer demand craters while inventory builds. San Francisco represents the ultimate test case for housing market fundamentals versus speculative momentum, and fundamentals are winning decisively. California's housing market is shifting fast. More homes, fewer buyers, and inevitable price drops. Inventory is up 13.5% year over year. Days on market now average 47, and nearly 35% of sales include price cuts. Buyers should stay ready with financing, while sellers need to price aggressively before values slip further. Investors may find distressed opportunities, but caution is critical as markets can keep falling. Renters gain leverage, though some landlords may push rents higher. If you found this analysis helpful, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Share your experiences in the comments. I'll be reading and responding to the best insights.